Hello. We are here today with the Carter brothers. My name is Stephen Levi Carter.
And I'm Dr. Sterling Carter.
And we're excited here to bring you another episode of our podcast. We like to address different things that are all about breaking boundaries, trying to have ways of being resilient and change your mindset, change your work ethic so that you change your outcome. So we're excited today because we have a very special guest that Sterling is going to introduce. But the topic that we have today to talk about is something that's related to mental health. Something that's extremely important, is very popular now, and I'm glad it is because, especially in our community, it's been kind of something that has been unspoken, not addressed, especially in African American men. And so now we have an opportunity to address mental resilience, and how to deal with being in crisis, right? I think a lot of people are, from my opinion, everyone has mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has mental health.
Everybody has mental health, whether or not it's diagnosed or undiagnosed. Everyone deals with mental health.
Right.
And so what we're going to learn today is strategies on how to deal with that. So Sterling, tell us a little bit about our illustrious guest.
Yes, I have the honor of reading the bio of Dr. Napoleon Higgins, who the best part's not on here is that he graduated from Willow Ridge High School, which we all were there at the same time.
Distinction of character.
Okay, here we go. Dr. Napoleon Higgins is a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist in Houston, Texas. He is the owner of Bay Point Behavioral Health Services and Kaleidoscope Clinical Research. I like that name. Dr. Higgins received his MD from Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, and he completed his residency in adult psychiatry and his fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry at University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston. He's the executive director of the Black Psychiatrists of America, CEO of Global Health Psychiatry, president of the Black Psychiatrists of Greater Houston, psychiatry section chair of the National Medical Association, and past president of the Caucus of Black Psychiatrists of the American Psychiatric Association. Pretty impressive, right?
Very.
Dr. Higgins is co-author of Bree's Journey to Joy, a story about childhood grief and depression, how Amari learned to love school again. A story about ADHD. Also, Mind Matters, a resource guide to psychiatry for Black communities, and author of Transition to Practice, 21 things every doctor must know in contract negotiations and the job search. So I believe that's 3 books or 4?
That's 4.
Four books. He also specializes in nutrition and health to improve patients' lives mentally and physically. He emphasizes that good mental health and physical health are key in the practice of psychiatry and medicine. Okay? And last but not least, Dr. Higgins has worked with and founded many programs that help to direct inner city youth men and women to aspire to go to college and finish their educational goals. He has worked with countless community mentoring programs and has special interest in trauma, racism, and inner city issues and how they affect minority and disadvantaged children and communities. That's Dr. Higgins.
Yeah, that was a mouthful.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
That is. And so, very, very impressed. And the part about giving back to the community, we've seen that and attested to that because Dr. Higgins has spoke a couple of different times with the 100 Black Men of America, the event that we have every year, Black Vitamins. So thank you for that. Questions. We have so many questions. I guess I'll start off with just asking you, Dr. Higgins, how did you end up in psychiatry? Tell us about that path.
Right.
You know, interesting path. But first, I want to thank you all for having me and the work that you all do. Y'all are 2 good brothers, 2 good twin brothers. You know what I'm saying? A partnership and a team. And it's just great to be inside the room with you all. I feel privileged.
Thank you.
You know, I would say that my mother, God rest her soul, said that if the family would have had heart issues, I would have become a cardiologist. All right?
Yes.
So the fact is that, you know, being introduced to mental illness at a very young age, my grandmother was schizophrenic.
Okay.
And she was at times be actively psychotic.
Right.
So I thought some people just behaved and thought differently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't see it as illness because grandma was very loving and caring, and she could cook.
Right.
She would come in, to the house because mom, being a single mother, she would come to the house and help cook and help clean, take care of the kids. And I just saw her as a loving individual who sometimes did odd things that were not explainable.
Okay.
So mental illness in itself to me is just a different way that some people vibe.
That's
Okay.
right.
It
That's
wasn't ever something to be afraid of, to be
Exactly.
scared of. Obviously, unpredictable behavior becomes a problem.
Right.
But the fact is that it's just somebody's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they got to go to the doctor for some different things. And so just like you may have a skin issue, well, I don't have a skin issue, but I don't consider your skin issue to be odd or weird.
Right.
So you may have a mental health
Yes.
problem. That's something that you've got, and you take care of it and you handle it. So that's why I ran into it. So with a lot of my friends when they were in medical school, if they saw somebody mentally ill, they wanted to run away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I wanted to run to it.
Yes.
No, let's go help this person.
Yeah.
Let's go
Right.
fix this.
Right.
And let's get better. And so that's how I really got into the practice of why I wanted to be a psychiatrist and take this on.
How many, and you've been the leader of so many of these really, really great organizations, including Black Psychiatry Associations. How many Black psychiatrists are there out there? I mean, approximately.
It's an approximate, depending upon retirement, who's in and who's out, aging out, those coming in. It's about 1,400 throughout the entire country.
Wow.
That's it? The entire country?
That's it.
Entire
Some
country.
numbers would say up to 16. You'd have to push it to believe it's 18.
Wow.
But it's about 1 to 2% of all doctors, of all psychiatrists are actually Black.
Wow.
And oddly enough, most of them are located within a few cities.
Yeah.
So in Houston, you have about 100 Black psychiatrists.
Wow.
All right. Houston, Atlanta, New York, D.C., L.A. And then once you start getting out of Chicago, but once you get out of those main metropolitan areas, those large ones where large concentrations of Black people are at,
right.
you go some places where there is no Black psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Like I've seen where in certain parts in certain states, there's nobody there.
Wow.
So if you're looking for somebody who's culturally competent, who would understand you as a person and your people and understand where you're coming from, it can be hard.
No,
and
no
of the
wonder.
100,
No wonder in our community it's such a difficult process to go get help, because directly to your point, if you're looking for someone that looks like you, that you can relate to, be able to feel like understand your plot, it's hard to find.
It's hard to find. We don't. That's where a lot of the disparities is. There's not enough of us.
Yeah.
And most of us who are out here, most of us are out speaking and talking and trying to share with our people, and we're out here working, trying to get that done, to do our part in getting the information out to our community. So we have a dearth of Black mental health professionals, and I believe that is a direct reflection of why we don't understand mental health as well as we should.
Let me ask you a question. We alluded to this early on about the fact that mental illness now is so much more mainstream. We're talking about it more. We're more comfortable about it. It's not politically correct as someone to say, "Are you crazy?" The things that used to be common, that now we're able to talk about it, and I'm sure you've seen that trend change in your field, and you've been in the field for a number of years. I remember watching the movies back in the day of mental illness, and you see somebody get, I guess, called lobotomy. Was that lobotomy? Was they're literally drilling into someone's skull to try to, address some type of mental illness. And those are kind of like the scary things of how they treated someone in a sane asylum or whatever back in the day. But now that transition has changed, and so many people are more open to this discussion. How do you feel that change has happened, and how has that made a change for your career in general?
Well, I would say that I've seen more Black people engaging. I've definitely seen, our white counterparts in America have been engaging for a long time.
Sure.
Right.
And talking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think with us, it's now time to talk about it.
Yeah, it is.
I think that we now are starting to be able to reach out to the resources. There's more discussions. This is going to impact people. This conversation is going to save a life.
Yeah.
So by simply talking about it, addressing it, I think will cause more people to address it. And sadly, I've run into people who never knew that they were depressed.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that they had a mental illness.
True.
Oh, this is something that I can fix? I thought I was supposed to hear voices and be distracted by people speaking in my ear all the time.
Right.
And you telling me that there's actual help for that. Sadly, I remember a young man, I would say a middle-aged man who attempted suicide. And he was like, Doc, it wasn't until I got into the emergency room and they're pumping my stomach and they brought in a psychiatrist that I realized that I was depressed.
Wow.
I didn't know that was, I heard of depression, but I didn't know what it was. Because I look good, I dress nice, I go to work every day, I've got an excellent wife, I got beautiful kids, they're in school, doing well, so I have nothing to be depressed about.
Right.
So my assumption is that obviously I can't be depressed.
Right.
But
he actually was.
But I have a clinical issue. I have a medical problem. And he was saying to himself, I didn't realize how much it was impacting me and my family.
Right.
My irritability, my anger, my excessive drinking, on how much that was affecting everyone around me until I had to sit in the hospital to figure out, oh my goodness, I've been having this problem most of my life.
Yeah.
And now it's time to address it. So I think that getting the information out before the tragedy happens, and well too often in our community, we're waiting until it's too late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we're waiting until the suicide attempt occurs. Or the kid is now getting into major trouble.
Yeah.
The paperwork is now being done on you and your life and your behavior. And now we're finally coming in. But really, we need to pay attention to mental health. Day one, we all have mental health that gets pushed one way or the other.
Right. That's right.
All right, and so we have to recognize when there's something going on and make sure that we adjust to it.
So in regards to mental health, we have, help us understand the differences. You have psychiatrists, psychologists, you have licensed professional counselors, and I'm sure there's some other categories because mental health is so big, which is great.
Yes.
But when do you know to which person to go to depending on what situation would you recommend?
Well, I would say this. If you have a mental health problem, going to any of them is going to help.
Okay.
All right. Addressing it with your primary care doctor is going to help.
Okay.
Telling your business professional or your physical therapist.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that the more you address services, the better you are overall.
Sure.
So true.
All right. So those who are connected, moving around, seeing people, talking and discussing are going to be more connected. Now, when it comes to the mental health professional, most mental health, so far as psychiatric side of it, more of that is done by primary care than is done by psychiatry.
Okay.
So a third of everybody who walks in to see the doctor in any medical clinic, family medicine, internal medicine, a third of them are going to be on a psychotropic medication.
Really?
And that's how big mental health is.
Wow.
But nobody talks about it.
No one talks about
Now
it.
now the thing is that when you see when you see your primary care doctor, people will call it their nerve pill. Now the same medication when I write it, when I write it, somebody will call that an antidepressant or an antipsychotic. Same medication, but it's the nerve pill over there. So a lot of people will avoid us or fear us because of the stigma that goes with being a psychiatrist. Now, so primary care, then you have the psychiatric field. Now I'm a medical doctor.
Okay.
So I approach mental health through medicine. I went to med school, did all the different disciplines and practices, and I specialize in the mental health component of it.
Okay.
And the reason that psychiatrists need to go to medical school is because they write medicines.
That's right. That's
and also we handle other medical conditions or recognize medical conditions.
Right.
Every once in a while we have to treat them. More often than not, I'm trying to refer that out to somebody else. If it's complicated, I'm not trying to manage your diabetes and sliding scales and insulin and all that.
Right.
Go to your primary care doctor for that, or even your endocrinologist.
Exactly.
Now, there's the medicine part of psychiatry, and then there's the therapy part. All psychiatrists are trained to do therapy, but we don't. More often than not, we're going to refer that to a psychologist.
Okay.
All right. Now, the psychologist is probably your highest trained person who does therapy.
Okay.
You have your master's in social work and you have your master's in counseling.
Okay.
Now, also psychologists do testing like IQ tests. You see like the ink blot test, batteries of exams on how people are performing, and the mental status of what kind of personalities that you have and all that. They do that part. Psychiatrists are not really trained to do that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But they are. And then you have your therapists and your counselors who also who do a lot of therapy. Also, maybe referral for services and things of that sort. Where should your child be placed in school, or things on the job, and then working through those day-to-day life kind of things.
Okay.
So I would say the PhD psychologists probably can deal better with pathological issues that go along with mental health that need therapy, and your licensed counselors can do some of that, but kind of more life direction.
Yeah.
Where are we at? What are we doing? And working on that other side of mental health. Now, the fact is that you may need all three.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may need just straight up social work.
Okay.
All right. So if I'm trying to talk to you about your mental health, but you're about to be put out of your house, and you've got 3 kids, and you're going through a divorce, and whatever else is going on, you may need a psychiatrist, you may need a psychologist, you may need a social worker. You may need a priest.
Yeah,
you may need a lawyer.
Yeah,
exactly.
All that goes into your mental health.
Absolutely.
And also you may need the church. For 90%, 95% of black people, we're spiritual people. We just made that way.
That's right.
And of all people in the United States who engage in mental and spiritual health, it's black people.
Yeah.
No matter if it's Christian, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, whatever it might be, we're the more likely to be practicing. Despite cultural, what we see visually on people. Yeah. If you are a black Muslim, you're more likely to be an actively practicing black Muslim than, say, somebody from the Middle East.
Right.
So we engage in our spiritual health, and I say to people, if that's a strength for you, do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes you need pastoral counseling.
Absolutely.
So all of that goes into your mental health. There's multiple ways to access mental health. Having good friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Good friends matter.
Yeah, so true.
One thing that we don't do as black men is we don't engage one another.
We need to do better.
Exactly.
We really do need to go. I'm talking to myself now. Yeah. We do need to go to the fraternity meeting. When the black brothers are getting together and different black men are getting together.
If I was an alpha, I wouldn't want to go to the fraternity meeting. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I get it.
Well, I'm outnumbered right now. I'm going to take that one. I don't want to take no further L's. But seriously though, man, I mean, that matters. You need to go. When dudes are getting together and hanging out, this is therapeutic for all of us in the room, even behind the camera.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is therapeutic. So
absolutely.
That is going to change you and make you better. So I would say that mental health is an active participation. Yeah. You will not be mentally well by accident.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
You've got to be active in your growth.
Engaged. Let me ask you this. So because you're a childhood psychiatrist and you work with children and adults. Mm-hmm. So two questions. One is that what happens if as a child you don't get the care that you need from a mental health? What does that child that doesn't get the mental health, the mental care at an early stage look like when they become an adult? That's the first question. And then the second question is that as a parent, how do I identify if my child truly is suffering with mental health issues, or is it just normal growth, trying to figure out who I am, dealing with bullies in school? How do you know the difference?
Yeah, very, very, very tricky. I would say that first I say that everybody's at a developmental level.
Right.
All right. Be it a child, be it a preteen, an adolescent, late adolescence, young adult, adulthood, or as my father says at 85, I'm of advanced age.
There you go, advanced age.
Advanced. I'm advanced in age. And it's a beautiful thing to get to advanced age, because most black men don't get there.
We want to be there.
Yeah, we want to get there. Exactly. So I've advanced past all those other stages. I'm at this stage. But even at 85, that is a developmental level of life.
That's true.
All right? So by the time you get one level down, you've already out of there. You're on to the next level.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows how to behave as an adolescent once you become an adult.
Right.
But as an adolescent, no. So the point is, we can face pathology in any of those stages.
Okay.
2/3 of all mental health issues occur before you turn 18.
Okay.
So the majority of it has already happened. And then the majority of bad decisions and bad understanding and poor decision making occurs based upon, oddly enough, childhood trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were you exposed to? What did you see, or what did you not see?
Yeah.
As a kid determines how you move across life as an adult.
Right.
So trying to identify then on what is normal versus abnormal. And I would say the biggest thing is wellness, which is the ability for you to adapt to your environment wherever you're at.
Okay.
All right. So when you have that lack of adaptation,
Wow. Okay.
and life, your body cannot shift,
Right.
or essentially we're losing homeostasis.
Yes.
So far as the winds blow one way or the other, and we push this way and we brace this way and we go back and we go
Right.
forward, right? But when we can't handle that type of movement, we start to have pathology and start to fall down. We're not mastering this stage. We're not moving inside of this particular life cycle. At that point, we're looking at, is it mental illness?
Wow.
Or something else going on that's impairing or impacting the kid who should be able to perform well.
Okay.
So and then we see that even as adults. Are you able to go to work? Are you able to go to school? Are you taking care of your family? Are you able to pay your bills?
Right.
Are you able to adapt inside situations? Because we're all going to have stresses.
Yeah.
The wind is going to blow and the water is going to rise on us. All right. So do we sink? Do we swim? Do we fall down? Do we give up? Do we drown? And so when a person is not able to hold themselves together and life is pushing them one way or the other because the winds are going to blow,
Right.
are they able to adapt? And when you're not, the question is, if it's not something else that you can physically see, is it mental illness? I was talking to a friend of mine about another friend, and he was saying how the person is not able to work. They're very intelligent, very smart, very gifted, but can't hold a job in their profession. Like, what's going on?
Right.
Well, you can't. So they hired them to work for them, and it was like, well, they can't remember anything. They always seem to be upset, not reliable, not getting to work on time, not doing a good day's work when they're there.
Right.
Despite all the talents and them looking right and knowing how to do the job and having the credentials, there's something else going on.
Right.
And they were like, well, could you maybe talk to them? And I'm like, only if they reach out.
They have to realize they have a problem.
They got to realize you have a problem, and I can't make you come and get help.
That's right. That's right.
And so but that, I don't know if the person recognizes they have a problem or not. Sometimes we blame the world.
Right.
And sometimes the world is working against us. There are times. But all the time? You know what I mean? We've been a professional.
Yeah.
We've been at a license for 20 years, and it's still working against you. That's still not right?
Yeah, something's not right.
Something's not right. And sometimes it's us, and we need to address that.
So what can we do just day in, day out to manage stress? Just some key tools, techniques. We talked about, having friends as an outlet, believing in a higher power, making sure we're spending time with God. But just day to day, what would you recommend for our audience?
I would say the main thing is recognize, if you are stressed, recognize where your stresses are coming from.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that you can identify what it is that's bothering you, and then how do we make an adaptive change to mitigate that particular issue. So, our spiritual selves, all right, it's important to make sure that we take care of that part of it. Our friends, our family, being around good people, positive people.
Right.
And then with that comes avoiding people who are difficult to be around.
Exactly.
All right. There are some people,
absolutely.
some of your mental health is cutting out some folk and some things and some people in some places.
Exactly.
Making sure that you have adequate physical exercise.
Yeah.
You've got to move. And one of my biggest helps for stressors is physical movement, exercising. I remember somebody was stressing me out. Man, I bought me a punching bag just so I can get it out of me. You know what I mean? To sweat it out, punch it out. I ended up messing up my wrist and my shoulders from just hitting that thing over and over. I guess you got to work into this, right?
Right.
But physical exercise, sunlight matters.
Yeah.
It's like Superman. No matter when he's beat up, he's floating out of space. When the sun hits him, it wakes him back up. So sunlight matters. Meditation and prayer. I try to meditate at least twice a day, and and you don't have to meditate and pray long.
Right.
I tell folk that you don't have to do 40 days and 40 nights like Jesus.
Exactly.
I mean, a few minutes a day to plan the day out, to see the day, so that it's not as surprising.
Right.
So that you have a plan. You've already seen it. You've already been there. You already worked through the problems of the day. Saw my patients for the day. Saw the paperwork for the day. Saw the phone calls come in. So that when I see the day, it doesn't surprise me or fear me or scare me. So those are adequate sleep. is important to make sure that we do. That's one thing that I fight with. I love to stay up and get something else done. There's always one more thing to do. And my brain doesn't want to shut down even when it's time to go to bed. So I made sure that last night, we going to bed tonight.
Yeah.
All right. You got 150 emails. Whoever that is can wait. I know it can wait till tomorrow, wait till Monday. We're going to get some sleep tonight. So the sleep, all of those things actually go into your overall mental health. And you've got to be an active participant to make sure you do those things. Now, there's nobody without stress.
Right.
All right?
Right.
If you try to live, I have people say, I live a stress-free life. I'm like, oh, really? All right, try not doing something for the day. Let's go about 4 or 5 days where we just stress-free.
Exactly.
And see how your life is going. That's going to be extremely stressful.
That's right.
All right, if I don't see patients because I'm going stress-free, all right, but we got an issue at the house, but we ain't going to deal with that.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell my wife I'm going stress-free today.
That's not going to quite work out.
No. My daughter calls and she has a problem. Well, daddy's going to be stress-free.
Yeah.
No, there's an amount of stress that everybody's going to be under. And the question is, how are you handling it? All right. And sometimes you need to get some stuff off the plate. No doubt.
Right.
But, we're all going to handle that, and we've got to be intentional about doing that. And try not to get overwhelmed.
It's interesting. I was looking at a podcast, or it wasn't a training the other day, and they were talking about how the brain is one of the largest muscles in the body.
Right.
It burns more calories per day than any other muscle. And so as you were talking, it was kind of making me think, you have to mentally work out your brain, exercise your brain, keep a healthy brain, just like you would any other muscle in your body. I was thinking about that as you were talking.
You got to. The thought is, the body and brain is meant to move. Yeah. If you don't move your body or move your brain, it will break down.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It will start going crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's an active thing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to go through the day and get the stuff done.
Exactly.
But if you're sitting out vegging out watching television every day, looking at Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all the shows and everything that's going on, and you're putting mush into your brain and it's not actively going through the calculations. It's not going through the planning or organizing and things of that sort. You start to lose the ability to do those things.
Absolutely.
And then you think you're going to come off the couch and jump back into this thing.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen that way. Same thing physically. If you're laying in the bed, it's like a battery that you sit on the ground. Yeah. It will suck the energy right out of your body. So you've got to get up. You've got to move. If not, it's over. Blood pressure, cholesterol, physical issues, ailments, confusion, poor attention, even hallucinations. A depravity of information, of sound, of light will cause your brain to hallucinate.
Wow.
So no, you've got to keep going. There is no. My dad is 85 years old. He works at the office.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah. He don't work as fast as he used to, right? But he still gets it done. There's a job for him there, and he gets it done. But how do you do that at 85 when you were doing it at 84?
Oh yeah.
That's a great point.
You're doing it at 75, 65, 45. And I would say that, of the, one of the most reliable people I know, even at 85, he's going to be dad.
Right.
At 85 years of age. Even when he was a young professional humping and working in an engineering firm, he's always kept that level of waking up, getting the job done. And that's a pattern that we all have to fight to keep.
Right. So question for you. Give me the assessment of President Joe Biden right now and his ability to run for president for the next. I know it's funny, but it's not funny because everyone's kind of talking about it. And as a psychiatrist, you probably are able to see certain things that most people can't see. Do you think he has the mental capacity to go another 4 years?
I would say, first of all, I cannot comment on Joe Biden himself as a professional psychiatrist. Now, if I wasn't a psychiatrist, I could just pop off and just be like, this is how I feel about it. The thing is that nobody escapes aging.
Right.
Nobody escapes aging. That is going to happen to you mentally and physically. At the same time, Joe Biden has been in this game since
a long
time. You'd probably say 100 years, maybe.
Seems like it.
Yeah, it feels like he may be close to 150. Yeah. I know he's close to 125. All right. So the fact is that he's been in the game for a while. I could tell you this, as a psychiatrist, if you can prop me up, I can do psychiatry.
Okay.
All right, I've been doing it so long.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I've been trained to do psychiatry in my sleep. Trust me, as a resident, doing those long hours, working for a day and a half, 2 days in a row. I mean, sometimes people do try to practice if they still sleep. But the fact is that I know how to do the job.
Right.
Now, if I ask him to go and be an accountant at 82 years of age, no. So I mean, if I ask even with my father, there are things he knows how to do, all right, that he could do well. But I wouldn't ask him to go back to school.
Right.
To learn a whole other set of skills and tricks. At that age. So I would say that anytime somebody's older, you've got to consider cognitive issues, physical issues, and the stress level that being present is. It makes young people to go.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right. It will age you really quickly.
It ages you quick.
Any leadership position, but when you're talking about leading the United States of America, that's a stressful job.
That's a stressful job, and especially knowing what you know and seeing what you see.
Right.
And the decisions that you have to make on living and dying and things of that sort, and how much the balance of the world hangs on on you mentally. But I would say it's like this: as a doc, you don't become a good doc as an old doc.
Right.
You a good doc as a young doc.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And now you may get bad over time, but chances are you were bad from the beginning. So
that's a good point.
So my thought is, I would assume that he's mentally, cognitively able, or most are able at 82. But every year there's a fear factor of when it's going to slip, because there are those who it does.
Right.
But I've seen people well into their 90s who are mentally clear.
Right.
And you can't, and then of course we've seen, as a psychiatrist, you'll see dementia kick in, some people in their 40s or 50s, which is very sad.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but there's a clock on everybody.
There's a clock on
I don't know any 164-year-old presidents.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. At some point, and we'll leave this topic alone, but there's a lot of people that say should be more of a young man's game. When you're talking about, as business owners, we all are business owners, and you have to work 60, 70, 80 hours. It takes a lot of mental and physical stamina to do that. And so I hope as we continue to progress in this country, that we do move more towards younger leaders in that role, because I think that's important.
Definitely so. Well, developmentally, there's a different level of thinking.
Yeah.
I just crossed the 50 barrier. So I'm a different thinker at 50-something than I was at 40-something.
Right.
It's definitely different than 30-something.
Yeah.
Right.
And definitely different than 20-something.
Absolutely.
All right. So we need all of that involved in our systems.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Even in your company and your business, I need some 20-year-old thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think like a 20-year-old anymore.
Right.
And I wouldn't want a 20-year-old to think like a 50-year-old.
No.
That would be unfair.
To
put a 50-year-old brain in a 15-year-old.
Exactly.
Yeah, when do you take chances and risk and do stupid stuff?
Exactly.
No, I'm not going to take down the hall running. Why? I may fall. The ground gets harder the older you get.
Right.
But at 15, there's a way of thinking of engaging life that needs to occur for a 15-year-old to make it to 25 to 35 to 45 or 55. You don't want a 50-year-old acting like he's 15.
Yeah.
Even though I know some.
We all probably do.
But there is an importance of having those different levels of engagement, those different people around, because it actually makes you a better business and a better company. To have, if you're working in a diverse area and mix of people, it's important to have different people around from those areas and mixes.
Yeah.
Men and women and young and old and
True.
People who are IT professionals, medical professionals, legal professionals, accounting professionals. An accountant in my office would see things completely different than I would see them right now.
Absolutely.
So those consultations, that matters, and that's why I would say in our leadership we do need diversity. Would I want a 15-year-old running the country? Nah.
No. Yeah.
No, you got to be at least 35, I believe.
To be president,
which is good.
Which is a developmental level.
Yeah.
We're all in developmental stages. You don't get it down until you.
No, you get past it. I got a question for you. So, and this is for entrepreneurs. Obviously, the mental health of our employees is very important to us, because we see it happening more often than not. If you have someone who's dealing with mental health issues, they're not productive, as you mentioned, not getting to work on time, having issues, and that's money that we're losing from employees that are not active. And so mental health in an employment situation is more important than it ever has been. I remember one of my favorite shows is Billions. Sterling, have you ever watched Billions? So it was a show on I think it's HBO. It's Billions. And it's really like as a business owner, just kind of really motivational. These guys are just making money, and it's crazy. But the main character runs a $1 billion organization, and he has a full-time psychiatrist on his staff.
Okay.
And it's interesting that they have this dialogue, and the psychiatrist is like one of the main characters in this company, and she's in every episode. And they're constantly coming and having conversations with her. Everyone from the top executives, even down to the middle executives, those that are aspiring, they're all coming and having a conversation. And it's just so open and honest and natural. But it is evident that they do that because they understand how if you have employees that are able to handle mental health, mental illness, they're better performers.
Well, that you saying a mouthful. You're saying a mouthful. And when I say that, referring to dealing with companies where the employee is not mentally well.
Right.
And seeing how these Fortune 500 companies treat these employees.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Man, I can do this one all day. So, actually, I'm actually writing a book on it right now.
Okay.
But the issue of making sure that your employees have good mental health and also making sure and allowing them the space to have that.
Yeah.
So if you can't do it today and you need to take a day off and need to get an early weekend in, well, maybe you need to do that.
Yeah.
So then when you come back in on Monday, you fired up, ready to go.
Right.
All right. Now, the thing is, I've seen with companies where somebody will get mentally unwell. And it's almost like there's a level of punishment.
Right.
Like they're lying about their mental health. They're just trying to take advantage of the system and things of that sort. And I'm like, this is a high-powered executive who's off their game. The most common reason that a person is not at work is their mental health. Most common reason around the world is their mental health.
Wow.
So if somebody is not showing up to work and calling in sick, more often than not, it's the mental health. And so you want to make sure that you have an open environment to, now you can't necessarily ask a person, are you mentally ill? But hey, I'm worried about you. I've noticed that you're not able to do this or do that, or your performance level is off.
Right.
Is that something we can do to help? Is there any sort of help that you need to get? Because the fact is that when you train an employee and you're about to lose an employee, you're about to lose money.
100%.
When you bring somebody new in and having to catch them up.
All the training.
All the training and all that, especially if, now you have those who come in as a lateral move. But even at that, they don't know how the EMR works. It's going to be a minute before all the systems are up and running. So if you have a good employee, you want to take care of them and make sure there's space to take care of. There's space allowed for that, so for them to fully engage in the work that you need them to do. So I would say that we've got to do that part, but I've seen a lot of people get it wrong.
Yeah.
You take off, they want you to fill out all this paperwork. I've got, the short-term disability company blowing up my phone, asking for all kind of paperwork, saying that you're lying, I'm lying, And I'm like, no, mental illness is very common.
Right.
And the fact is that 9 times out of 10, between all the mental health professionals and engagement, we can get you back to top performance.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's great.
That's 80-90% of the time.
Yeah.
Now, there's another 10-20% that has an illness that I may not be able to, have you at performance, but I can at least get you better.
Right.
Or at some level of performance.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of help and treatment out there.
Yeah.
And it's almost like if you're suffering from mental illness, either you're engaging or or you just like,
Denial.
I'm in denial. I'm just be this way.
Yeah.
Right.
So really you can get the help that you need. And if you can identify something in a person or in a family member, sometimes it's okay to say something.
Yeah.
Now of course you don't, Thanksgiving dinner, I think you're crazy. No, that's not going to help. Or let's make an intervention, while you slicing through the turkey.
Yeah.
Right.
Nah, they ain't going to help. Those are going
Okay.
to, these need to be individual conversations that, hey, have you noticed that X, Y, and Z seems to be going on?
Right.
And you may want to, if you want me to help or whatever, just let me know. But, normally it is better when it comes from somebody trusted who knows you.
Right.
But I found that people are like cell phones. You tell them something, it's going to be downloaded.
Exactly.
And then they may address it or may not address it. They may open the app or may not. But sometimes we may not realize some of the things that we're doing. And we require to have people that we love to say a little something to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed.
Well, Dr. Higgins, we're pretty much out of time, but I want to. Time just flies by.
Man, I want 31 minutes with you, Dr. Higgins. I got so much more.
Yeah, we're having a good time, man. Like, we done?
A couple of things we want to end with. We always ask is what's your favorite podcast or book you want to share with the audience? And then if you could let them know about your business and how they can contact you if they need help.
Oh my goodness, my favorite book. Well, I'm thinking of Black History Month is coming up.
Okay.
And somebody, actually my sister was telling me, my elder sister passed away, Sharon Higgins, Parker, a few years ago. And she had been telling me to read this book called Before the Mayflower.
Before the Mayflower.
I've not heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah, Before the Mayflower is a book written, I want to say in 1960 something.
Okay.
And I think it was redone around the 80s.
Okay.
But it tells a real good story about Black history.
Excellent.
So there's another one that I recently read called The Destruction of, oh my goodness, and it's slipping my mind, it's in my car, I just finished it.
Okay.
But basically it's the destruction of Black people over the last 6,000 years.
Okay. Okay.
And that's another deep book, just getting us prepared and ready for Black History Month.
Yeah.
And then Medical Apartheid is another good one.
Okay.
That talks of the current issues that are going on right now.
Really?
In medicine, mental health, and that's another good one. So I love to be a reader, and
so
get some information. And we're coming up on Black History Month, and no time better than now. So when it comes to work that I'm doing, so right now the practice is very busy. That's the primary what I do is treating mental health. Mm-hmm. People have a problem. My thought is I want our practice to be somewhere that can help it, or refer you to someone else.
Absolutely.
Right? If we can't do it, I'm doing some research on Alzheimer's disease and a few other things. So I'm trying to get that off the ground. And I'm still writing books. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping to get a couple of them out this year. One on a childhood book on autism. And then the other one is going to be, and I don't want to get the name out because I think it's a catchy phrase. We haven't ready to finish writing it yet. But it's really dealing with Black people in the workplace.
Okay.
And the stresses of racism and what we go through.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the work that me and my team of writers have been doing. That what we've been working on as a team is trying to address some of these issues that we've been talking about since the pandemic and George Floyd. That sometimes you may not be crazy. It may be them.
Yeah.
And you're trying to adapt to the craziness of how, as Black people, we're treated in the workplace.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll make you think you're crazy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Black women, how they're being treated in the workplace.
Absolutely.
I have a family member right now negotiating contracts and saying, well, why as a professional are my contracts coming in low?
Right.
If the average pay is X.
Right.
And I'm a professional.
Yeah.
And I got licenses and all that.
Exactly.
Why is my starting salary about, 10% lower than the average? Mm-hmm. And why am I keep getting offered that? Now, if you don't know better, you would think that maybe I'm not as credentialed.
Exactly.
Or maybe because I went to this school and all these other people must be. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. No, there's the issue called racism and sexism.
Right. Exactly.
And those impact you.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to get some work done with that and just trying to grow this message about mental health.
Yeah.
It's important.
We got to be on this thing. Everybody
so
should be about their mental health.
Yeah.
As I say, you take the bulls by his horns. And because you can control a large beast if you've got its physical head.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to make sure that we be strong, be mentally free, and work on the strengthening of our minds and decreasing the stress and making sure we take care of ourselves and identifying those issues that are bothering us early so that we can make a change when the time is necessary.
Outstanding.
And honestly, many of us, the time's right now.
Outstanding.
Time is right now.
Outstanding.
So important. Thank you, Dr. Higgins, for that. Just want to say to our audience, we've learned so much today. It's been valuable. And there's so much out there for you. If you need help, There's individuals like Dr. Higgins. We talked about all the different facets of mental health and getting help. I didn't know we could just go to our primary care physician or a psychologist, psychiatrist, MSSW, and all that kind of good stuff. So spot on. Thank you for those techniques that we can do each and every day to keep our stress levels down and that sort of thing. Amazing conversation. Stephen? Any last words?
Seriously, really enjoyed the conversation, Dr. Higgins. So much more that can be said. This is a subject that again impacts so many people, and we need to take it so seriously. We hope, as you mentioned earlier, that we're blessing someone, we're saving someone's life. You know of someone that's going through some things, maybe has some of the symptoms that were described here. Maybe they are dealing with depression. Maybe they don't know that that's what they're dealing with, but there's help out there. Talk to somebody, share your plight, and just see if you can get help.
That's it. And you can find us on Facebook, on Meta, Instagram. Check out our podcast and please share, because we're talking about things that are positive. We're trying to make a positive difference in the world and show you how to navigate your life, through the Carter brothers.
Absolutely. So for us, we always end with, remember, with each step beyond boundaries, you redefine what's possible.
Navigate your life with passion, purpose, and determination. Thanks, guys.
Take care. God bless.
Care.